Hey, what's up? My name is Brian Henderson. I'm an associate professor of science education at Arizona State University. I'm in my 12th year now, and I'm tenured both in the Department of Physics and in the Mary Lou Fulton College for Teaching and Learning Innovation. Indeed, I teach classes both in physics and I also teach classes about how people learn. My science background got started in astrophysics, but I've also spent a lot of years studying the brain and how people learn science. So welcome to the course. This is a calculus-based introductory college physics course. And so we cover a lot of stuff and we cover it quite rapidly. So we're going to cover motion both in 1 and 2 dimensions. Sometimes we call this kinematics. And when we do the motion, we're going to do it both linear, i.e. motion in a line, and also circular. And so kinematics is motion, both linear and circular, and in 1 and 2 dimensions. We're going to get into forces, okay? And so when we talk about forces, the physics term we often use is dynamics. And so just like we do both linear and circular kinematics, we're going to do both linear and circular dynamics. And so we're going to start with forces acting linearly, but then we're also going to get into forces that cause motion, which is sometimes called torque, or in engineering, it's called moment. So we're then going to move into the concept of momentum and how momentum relates to force. And if there are certain conditions that are satisfied, it turns out that momentum is conserved. And so we then get into concepts of work and energy. Now, work is also associated with forces, we will learn, and work has associations with energy. And so we do all of this in 6 weeks. So I've decided to leave your 7th week for just catching up on assignments and preparing for the final exam. So we're going to do 6 weeks of material. And so if you look at ASU guidelines for a 3-unit course, this is going to be about 20 hours a week that's going to be necessary for you to do well in this course. Because again, this course is moving at twice the pace. We are going to be covering in half of a semester what would normally be covered in an entire semester. So the work is going to break down like this. We are going to do 1 problem set per week over these 6 weeks. And so you can think of the motion, kinematics, the forces, dynamics, momentum, and concepts of work and energy. This is all going to be compacted into 6 weeks, and there's going to be a homework problem set at the end of each of these weeks. And so there's going to be a midterm exam every 2 weeks. So since we're doing 6 weeks of material, we're doing 3 midterm exams. So that means that each midterm exam is going to cover material from the 2 previous problem sets. So for example, the first midterm exam, it's going to cover problems from problem set 1 and problem set 2. The second midterm exam is going to cover problems from problem set 3 and problem set 4. And the third midterm exam is going to cover problems from problem set 5 and problem set 6. There then is going to be a comprehensive final exam that is going to cover the entire course. And again, instead of giving you additional new material after the third midterm exam, I'm giving you a period of time where you can catch up on late assignments and prepare for your final exam. Now, when I say late assignments, technically, there is no such thing in this course. I want to be respectful for your busy schedules, the many things that you're juggling in addition to this class. And so I've made it such that all of the assignments technically have no late penalty. That means you have until the very close of this course, okay? When the final exam availability window closes and the course closes, that is when you have to have everything done. And so technically that's not until the very last minute of this course that you can turn in your problem sets and not have any late penalty, okay? Now, on top of these flexible deadlines, because of my respect for all the other things that are going on in all of our lives, I also offer right from the get-go in this class what I consider to be a generous course grace policy. So more specifically, in addition to having completely flexible deadlines with our problem sets, I'm also going to allow students to drop their 3 lowest problem set scores. There's only 6 problem sets, so you literally get to drop the 3 lowest, 50% of your problem sets you get to drop, and just keep the 50% of your highest problem set scores. There's 3 midterm exams. I'm going to allow you to drop your lowest midterm exam. You cannot drop the final exam, however. The reason that I provide these graces and also opportunities to earn upwards of 10 additional percentage points of extra credit. I have the class set up so that the problem sets and the homeworks account for 100%, but then I have an additional 10% you can get on top of that 100%. And so that's a full letter grade boost if you take advantage of that extra credit. Again, I offer this grace because we have lots of things going on, and often that means that we are going to have unforeseen circumstances. And so what I kindly ask that you all do is you consider this course grace policy, the extra credit, the flexible deadlines, the opportunities to drop scores. You consider this a rainy day fund, okay? Hold on to it when you really need it, you can use it. Please don't use it as an excuse not to fully engage with the course. And then when there really is a rainy day, when something you didn't expect all of a sudden happens, you don't have those drop scores say anymore, okay? Use them wisely, okay? Keep them for unforeseen circumstances because unforeseen circumstances happen. Because of this grace policy, extensions are really tricky in this course, and I honestly rarely grant extensions because since we're in such an accelerated course, if I give somebody an extension, if they like, hey, I know the final exam's due tomorrow, but can I have a few more days? If I grant that, then that immediately puts the student behind for the next material. And so I can, in good faith, in such an accelerated course, put students behind and therefore put them in a position where it's going to be harder for them to succeed. So extensions are incredibly, incredibly rare in this course. That's why we give the course grace policy up front to mitigate unforeseen circumstances. Now, that being said, part of the course grace policy is that if after 10% extra credit, completely flexible deadlines with your problem sets, the opportunity to drop your 3 lowest problem sets, the opportunity to drop your lowest midterm exam. If after all of that, you are finding that you're still not able to keep up with the course, then you do have the option to put in for a compassionate withdrawal. And chances are, if given those graces, you still can't keep up with the course, it's probably a situation that would absolutely qualify for a compassionate withdrawal. And I will support you. Things happen. Sometimes we don't have the time that we thought we were going to have to be able to do these courses successfully. And so if after all of those graces, you feel like you still weren't able to do the way you wanted to do in this class, we do have the option of pursuing a compassionate withdrawal. And if you are granted a compassionate withdrawal by ASU, that means that you are able to drop the course, but it does not show up on your transcript. I want to talk briefly about the course email policy. So in these large enrollment courses, you can probably imagine there's lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of emails. And so I have a fantastic group of teaching assistants that are kind enough to kind of be the first line of communication, such that if they can't answer questions, they will then send the questions to me, okay? I'll be the second line of defense. But please review the course email policy and know that if you have a question that you feel you need to write an email about, please email all of the TAs first, okay? All of them. And you can find their email addresses in the syllabus and in the Canvas home course page. And so email them first, and then if they can't answer your question, and trust me, I provided them so many resources to answer these questions, but if they can't, then rest assured it will come to me and I will do my best to answer your question. Now, that being said, I've created a chatbot. It's called Virtual Dr. Henderson. You'll find the link on Canvas. And I fed the course syllabus into the chatbot, so you have the opportunity to immediately ask questions about the logistics of this course to the chatbot and get a rapid response. You don't have to wait for an email. So please check that out. The class has got a lot of information, and I apologize that it has so much information that you have to sift through. We live in a new era where, especially with generative artificial intelligence, there's a lot of protocols that we have to establish in order to try and ensure both the academic standards and the academic integrity of online education. You are spending good money and you're putting good time into online education, and we do not want online education to get a bad reputation from, say, using generative AI to do work instead of the students learning to do work themselves. We'll say much more about this as the course goes on. And by the way, We welcome artificial intelligence in this course. Artificial intelligence can be a fantastic tutor. And just as I've never had an issue with students getting human tutors, there's nothing wrong with having artificial intelligence serve as a tutor for you. But there's a difference between it tutoring you so that you can prepare yourselves to do the exams yourself and outsourcing thinking to the artificial intelligence where it does all the work for you. Think of it like this. For the exams, you are going to have to solve these problems yourself. You are going to have to drive the car. You're not going to learn how to drive the car by having artificial intelligence always taking the wheel, okay? You need to have artificial intelligence riding in the passenger seat, and you need to be at the wheel. We have put forward new protocols where to take exams in this course, we need the camera to be positioned such that it's not just your face that we see, but we literally see your work as you're doing your work. And then not only do we need to see your work as you're doing it, but you need to hold it up to the screen. And then you need to upload it. You'll see all sorts of information about protocols for camera placement and for uploading work. But the idea is that we want you to be driving come exam day. You need to do these problems yourself. Now, to give you a path for success, these problems, right, which are in the forms of 6 problem sets, okay, these are what you're going to be practicing. And I am going to reward you so much if you put a good faith effort into learning how to solve this problem yourself, because what I am doing right now is I am rewriting all of the exams so that every single question on every single exam is just like what you see in the problem sets, okay? And so you will be very much rewarded if you put in the time to solve all of the problems in the problem sets yourself. You can use AI to help, but you need to solve them yourself. And if you do put in the time to solve all the problems in the problem sets on your own, there's going to be no surprises come exam day, because I promise you, every single question on each exam is going to be based exactly on the problems that you see on the problem sets. And so, like I said, there's a lot of information, and I appreciate you taking the time to look through this course information. When you have an asynchronous course with such a high enrollment of students, it's so important to get the information out. And so we've really put forth a good faith effort to get the information in so many different places. But to try to best ensure that you get all of the necessary information in order to navigate this course successfully, what we have done is we've created a day 1 module. And I very much hope that you start on day 1 on this module, because this class moves so quickly. And so the day 1 module is going to give you step-by-step instructions for configuring this course and setting yourself up for success. It's going to give you very important information covering a lot of the things I just mentioned, such as how do you place your camera so that you are able to follow our exam guidelines? How do you upload your work? Where do you do all of this? All of that information is provided to you, and you need to go through all that important information in order to actually continue with the class. Canvas is set up so that the remaining modules of the course, which include your problem sets and your exams and so forth, you can't access those and do the work until you first complete the day 1 module. So I encourage you to do the day 1 module, hopefully on day 1. And by the way, you will be rewarded for doing so, because in the day 1 module is a series of extra credit opportunities. I mentioned this class offers up to 10% extra credit. That's an entire letter grade. And so I highly encourage you to do all of those extra credit assignments. You're going to see that 8% of that 10% is in this day 1 module. And then at the end of the course, you're going to see one more 2% extra credit assignment. So I've gone on for far too long. And again, this course moves rapidly. And so I want to encourage you to stay on top of this course as best you can. You're going to need to put in at least 20 hours a week in order for this to be successful. Physics can be a very challenging subject, let alone physics at twice the pace. But that being said, no, I respect that you have other things going on in your life. So please review the generous course grace policy, where you're going to learn about how the deadlines for your assignments are flexible, where you're going to have opportunities to drop low scores. And as I just mentioned, you have opportunities for extra credit. One last thing. While I have made it such that the assignments are completely flexible, I do believe in providing a suggested pace, especially when we're moving at twice the pace. And so you're going to see in the problem sets, in the titles of the problem sets, you are going to see suggested due dates. But again, while I provide suggested due dates, technically you can turn those assignments in all the way to the last minute of this course. And again, there's going to be 6 weeks of material, and then I'm going to give you a 7th week where instead of having to learn additional material, you can use that time to get caught up with any assignments you've missed, and you can prepare yourself for the comprehensive final exam. So, welcome to the course. I very much hope you find it useful, and I wish you all the best.